The infant's wail shattered the crisp mountain dawn, rebounding off jagged stone walls like a dagger slicing through taut sinew. On the rugged western flank of Mount Taygetus, where the wind howled down from eternal snowcaps, 5 grizzled elders formed a solemn ring. Their scarlet cloaks billowed like bloody banners, defiant against the chill. The child was 5 days old, a fragile spark in the forge of Sparta. His mother had already subjected him to the first rite, immersion in undiluted wine, a ritual purge to assay his resilience against hidden frailties. He had not faltered, had not seized or stilled. Survival marked the threshold. Now loomed the true crucible. These were no healers, no oracles cloaked in mysticism. They were the Gerousia, Sparta's iron-fisted council of elders, survivors of 6 decades in the crucible of war, their flesh etched with scars from blades and shields, their palms stained by the blood of foes beyond reckoning. Emotionless as the granite beneath them, they scrutinized the naked babe writhing on the frost-kissed altar. Brasidas, veteran of the Messenian Wars, hoisted the child by his heels. The screams intensified, raw and unrelenting. He probed the limb, the arch of the foot, the tautness of the minuscule calf, passing the squalor to the next, who tallied ribs and spanned shoulders with calloused digits. A third elder forced open the tiny maw, scanning palate and tongue for flaws that might choke breath or slur command. 30 paces distant, restrained by 2 bronze-clad hoplites, stood Kyra, 19 summers young, this her firstborn. Speech was forbidden, supplication, a stain on her lineage that would seal her son's doom regardless. She could only witness, nails gouging bloody crescents into her palms, crimson rivulets tracing silent paths down her wrists. 7 minutes ticked by in clinical dissection, the cries crescendoing to a fever pitch. At last, the eldest, Lycurgon, self-proclaimed heir to the mythic lawgiver, raised a gnarled hand. The circle parted. Wind-whipped silence fell, pierced only by the babe's labored gasps. One word escaped Lycurgon's lips, unscribed in annals, unwritten in clay, yet etched into every Spartan's marrow. A mother's nocturnal specter, a warrior's grim catechism. It decreed ascension to the ranks of Lacedaemon's Iron Legion, or consignment to the Apothetae, the gorge of oblivion, where Taygetus devoured the unworthy, as it had millennia of cast-offs. This rite, etched across epochs, forged antiquity's deadliest phalanx. Yet, at what infernal toll, when a polity brands worth at cradle's edge, imperfection as execution, the state as sovereign over progeny, what shadows does it cast upon the soul of civilization? If the veiled horrors of antiquity grip you, linger here. Drop your voice below. From which corner of the globe do you bear witness? This is no celluloid fable, no bardic paean to valor. It is history's unvarnished ledger, Plutarch's vignettes, Xenophon's eyewitness dispatches, the unquiet bones unearthed on Taygetus's flanks. Every ritual, every call, every calculated lineage traced to verifiable scrolls and strata. Sparta was no mere boot camp. It was a eugenic forge, predating the term by 2 millennia, where humanity was smelted into supremacy. The dawn climbed, gilding Taygetus's crags. Kyra's boy was neither premiere nor finale that morn. The year, 412 BC. Sparta's selective forge had honed over 4 centuries, from crude exigency to a chilling calculus of survival and slaughter. What germinated as martial pragmatism metastasized into statecraft's abyss. Industrial scale culling, codified in edict, hallowed by rite, normalized in a polity that tallied triumph in hoplite cadavers and helopyres. To fathom how Sparta enthroned filicide as polity, one must descend into its cradle of dread. The Peloponnese of the 8th century BCE was no idol, a cauldron of poleis clawing for arable earth, olive groves, thalassic dominion. Yet Sparta's specter loomed singular, arithmetic Armageddon. Circa 730 BCE, Lacedaemon engulfed Messenia in a 20-year inferno, chaining its folk as helots, state chattel, tillers of the black soil that fed the Spartiate elite. The math was merciless. For each citizen soldier, 7 helots seethed in shadow. 7 tillers who once were free Messenians, whispering ancestral lays to their spawn, nursing grudges in the furrows they furrowed for captors. Envision that vice, awakening to fields sowed by 7-fold foes, each harboring blades in the gloaming, primed for throat-slitting reprisal. Sparta's ethos crystallized around this internal Armageddon, not Persian galleys or Athenian triremes, but helicides at dawn. Every decree, every drill, every cull answered one query. How does a scant elite perpetuate hegemony amid a resentful multitude baying for blood? Sparta's riposte, metamorphosed into antiquity's apex predator. Every male, a conscripted killer from cradle to pyre. Physique honed to lethality, psyche forged in fealty, primed to pulverize revolt with phalanx precision. This alchemy demanded more than Agoge barracks and olive-drenched palestras. It craved curation at genesis, deliberate propagation, pruning the flawed to propagate the flawless. Sparta's physiognomy mirrored this psychosis. Wall-less, as Agesilaus too quipped, its ramparts were men, not masonry. Athens flaunted Acropolis splendor, Sparta, austere utility. Temples stark as obelisks, an agora for muster, not meandering. Absent, academies of dialectic, amphitheaters of Aeschylus, emporia hawking Tyrian dyes. All excised save what sharpened the spear point. Hierarchy was adamant. Apex Spartans, the homoioi, equals in blood and bronze. Flanking them, perioikoi, freemen in peripheral hamlets, smiths and sailors sustaining the sinews. Nadir, helots, earth's bound thralls, scourged in cryptia pogroms, state-sanctioned hunts, where youths culled them like vermin to etch terror into their marrow. Spartiate existence was regimented requiem, dawn to dusk drudgery in phalanx form. Evenings in Syssitia, communal refectories where quotas of barley and blood sustained the cadre, discourse dissecting feints and flanks. Wedlock was procreative calculus, not eros embrace. Barracks trumped bridal bed. Affection? Reserved for Syssitian sworn kin, bonds braised in brawl and melee. Spartan dames, anomalous in Hellenic annals, wielded reins looser than Athenian veils. Proprietors of 40% of tillable turf, orators in assembly, athletes in the nude, scandalizing periclean prudes. Yet this was no Egalia's dawn. It was eugenic husbandry. The state sculpted them sinewy to sire sinewy heirs, gymnasium gallops, and discus duels, not for joy, but to calibrate the womb's yield. The Agoge commenced at 7 winters, a 30-year gauntlet transmuting boys to blades. Uprooted from eternal hearth, they herded into Ile, packs of 60, overseen by paidonomoi, drill masters whose mercy was myth. Rations rationed to ravenous edge. Pilferage prized as ploy, punished only if bungled. Fisticuffs mandatory, floggings festive. Whipping contests at Artemis Orthia's shrine, where survivors licked lashes into lore. Cryptia climaxed the curriculum. Nocturnal forays assassinating helots, not rebels, but random reapers, inoculating youth against qualms, imprinting dominance as divine droit. Yet the Agoge sculpted survivors. The forge fired at birth. Preceding the phalanx's forge was the progeny's purge. Shadowy, sieve-sifting neonates sans recourse, sans redemption. Theaegitus's Apothetae whispers corroboration. 1960s strata yield neonatal ossuaries. Forensics affirming vitality at discard. Maladies minor or moot. Rejects pristine save for elder's edict. Plutarch half millennium hence limbs the liturgy. Xenophon, Lacedaemon's lodger, lauds laced with disquiet. Aristotle, arch critic, attests the apparatus. Sparta's hegemony crested 5th century BCE. Hoplite hosts hallucinating dread in Delian League dreams. Crimson cloaks, cinderblock phalanxes that fractured foes pre-clash. Persians parleyed warily. Athenians, the Lassic Titans, sued for stasis. Thermopylae, Tracentum mythologized the metal. Yet glory's underbelly, pre-phalanx pyres, pre-Agoge abysses, a charnel calculus claiming cohorts in cradle culls. The right resumed under Tayegidus's gaze. Post-Kyra's issue, cleared, 2 more sires, wept reprieve. The quartet, Apothetae patrician's daughter, faltered. P.S. Planus, pedal perverted. Her dam's dirge detonated the declivity as the discard descended. Kyra's viscera vaulted. That chasm could claim hers. Compliance was covenantal. No habeas, no hierarchy of horrors, no clemency for consanguinity. The polity's peril, Helot hordes hydra, exacted exemplars unalloyed. Deviation diluted the phalanx. The state, sovereign, could not countenance compromise. Kyra had steeled since quickening. Spawn of Pausanias, perished 3 priapic against Argive ire. She wed Nicodas, Sciritae spearman, 25, Ephorate engineered. Utility uber alis. His hegemony hinged on heirs. Hers, on hearth and holdings. Acquaintance, thrice tentative, appraising as auctioneers. Nuptials? Nocturnal kidnapping. Age mates erupting, feigned fracas from female kin. Bridal shave and chitin to claim as transmutation. Symbolism stark, adolescence aborted, broodmare bespoke. Consummation, Barak's brevity, dawn's departure. Conception, cycled swift. Gestation, gymnasium grueling, gravid gallops, lithic lifts, victuals vetted for vigor. Womb ward war chance, statuary stairs. Armalustio's fifth, parturition's paroxysm, 14 hours heroism. Theora's tending sands soporific. Silence enjoined, lest shrieks shame the spearline. Emergent, male miraculous, digits decuple, digits deployed, frame flawless. 7 seconds solace on sternum. Yet Theora's mean, marmoreal. Precedents precluded presumption. Palates pucker or pitches plaint could preclude. Winewhelm, second sifting, second survival, squall strident, seizure shunned. 3 days tally, creases catalogued, lashes lustrated, respirations revered. Anonymity, nomenclature post-nod, lest hubris hex the hearth. Nicetas nocturne, nadir of nurture, scrutiny surgical, silence is shield. Dawn's dread, Tayegidus trek, king clutched, cohort congealing, terror's tableau, escorts ensuring egress's end. Apogee, elders enthroned, first fled fledgling fled, fiat favorable. Second, sirenet's ululations unhinged the umpires. Umbrage universal, ululation unbound as ululant appended into umbra. Kyra's cue, qualms quintessence. Yielding the yield, void's vertigo. Circuit, calves contorted, vertebrae vetted, vocables voided. 9 minutes nadir, neonate nomadic, twixt nomads, nonentity appraised. Lycurgon's last, larval gaze locked, longevity's ledger. Epic's ellipsis. Then, descent, swaddle, pivot. Palm upraised. Pausa pulseless. Peroration's precipice. Progeny not persona, but prototype. Prototype for phalanx or perdition. Fiat, suitable. Reclamation. Rapture-racking, ribs resonant. Euphoria edged with excruciation. Excruciation at the eclipsed, the echo's elegy, the eidolon of 7 winters' severance. This was no outlier, no archaic anomaly. From circa 700 BCE to 4th century nadir, Sparta's civ spanned for centuries, a literal aritology of anatomy. Lycurgon, lex enshrined. Plutarch parses, well-built and sturdy, yet subjectivity specter. Proportions parsed, pathologies pursued, talipes, talipes, talipes. Vigor vivisected. Beyond basal. Bespoke breeding, Galton avant la lettre, state-stamped studbook. Apothetae's attestation, 1990s osteometry affirms, vital viands at void, variances vestigial. Backward bind, betrothals by brawn, bridal beds by blueprint. Xenophon extols Lycurgon legacies, parental physiques paramount, marriages marshaled post-martial muster, matrons mobilized in motion. Matrimony. Mechanism, not muse. Abduction's archetype. Coital calculus in Kazerne crepuscule. Cohabitation? Contra. Secessious supremacy. sires stealing sows for seed time. Apex atrocity, scintilife, spouse swapping sanctified, Plutarch's précis. Sires senior shuttling spouses to sires strapping, or suitors soliciting surrogacy. Xenophon's encomium, emulous emulation evaded. Eugenie exalted. Reproduction, rancher's rubric, not Romeo's rapture. Demography's dirge, 5th century apex, 8,000 homoioi. Yet oliganthropia inexorable, man shortage Sparta's scourge. Paradox's pith, selectivity scythe. Plutarch posits 1 in 5 culled a crib. Agoge attrition amplified. Combat culled the cull. Qualities quest quashed quantity. Helihordes burgeoned. Citizen cadre contracted. Irony incarnate. Dame's domain, Delphic in dominion, yet delimited. Gymnasian galas, glebes gripped, yet Genesis's gears. Aristotle's aspersion, Gynarchy's gravis on decline, yet concession. Science stalwart. Matriarchs mentored in metal, shield or shroud, laconic laurel for Lacedaemons lost. Rejected? Rights reticence, reticule raw, reprise requisitioned. Psyche's plunder, parturition's pang, 5 days fealty, then forfeiture, framed as fortitude's forge. How myriad matrons masked the maelstrom, motherhood's mutilation. Indoctrination's iron, survivors schooled in Sparta's scripture, Aristos' axiom, atavism's altar. Rites ratified, Delphic divine, Helot hybris by heaven. Descent? Deicide's doppelganger, yet hubris haunted. Homogeneity's hemlock. Pruning pruned adaptability, cerebration, creation called. No nesters of nous, no Phidias freezes, no Archimedean arcs. Aristotle's arraignment, hoplites owned, Helots held, yet polis paupered. Plato's palinode, phalanx fixation fatal. Scales shadow, for centuries cull, thousands tumbled, lineages liquidated. Sophisticated sadism, statute scaffold, sophistry shroud, sophrosyne simulacrum. Triumph tactical, toll transcendent, tenderness's tomb. 7 cycles swirled. Leonidas, Chira's cub, cognomen from kin, kindled under curtailed caress. Nursing nominal, nurture nominalized. Coddles contraindicated, chills calibrated. Ludic legions, Lilliputian lancers, lore from lash-scarred laureates. Septenary summons, Ephor's edict, Armalustio's aurora. Chira's coda, with shield or upon it. Procession, 30 fledglings, phalanx forged, Eurotas bound. Parting, permanent. Agoge's arcana, septenary sept, Isles of 60, Paedonomos paramount, Alcibiades, alchemist of agony. Inaugural, triad tussle, tutelage in terror. Subsistence, starvation spur, stealth seminary, snared. Sanction for sloppiness. Corpus crusade, calisthenic ceaseless, climbs contempt. Hyamel's harsh, Aestival's ardent. Paideia peripheral, papyri parsed for phalanx, paeans for prowess. No noumena, only nomos of the Nemean. Cryptia's crescendo, clandestine cull, Hella harvest sans cause. Cathon for catharsis, consternation for the chained. Plutarch's portfolio, nocturnal knives, Necorama's notice. Aristonomos, 8 embers extinguished, entasis euphemism for elderly visceration. Eulogy, edifying excision. Gorgo, Ginic analog, decim in 480 BCE. Gymnasian gladiatrix, outpacing oikoi, outwrestling ontus. Ostensible, obstetric optimization. Ostentation, oiled ogling, Enophile's oracle, ontology's object. Quatordecim, Lysander's levy, lustrum's liturgy. Quickening, quinkings of quick, septem sires, tur rejected. Sextus, sinister, sextadigital sinisterior, functional fantail. Quinquennial quam, teigidus tableau, teratology's tribunal. Talipes triumph, Nevis nadir, arbitrariness absolute. Gorgo's gavel, gurney to Jerusia, gnarl's gaze. Brasidas, beholden Brasidas, biennial, biopsy, bendable bonus. Lycurgon's laurel, loimos. Lament locked, lineage liquidated. Lineage's loss, libido's lash. Resumption, sextus immense, septenary spawn, triumph ternary, tragedy triune, tot, telos tallied, triumph tepid, scintilliffe sting, alpha middens mate, quadragenary quandary, dui domini, duo desiderata, tmicus trist, trist's tyranny, trammel's toll, thalassic 30, thraldom's theorem, thus theorem, thraldom transcendental, psyche psoriasis, suppressed, stoicized, pathos pathologized, phalanxes phoenix, prowess, paucity, oliganthropia ominous, Leuctra's laceration, 371 BCE, quinquagenary post-Kyra, Epaminondas epiphany, Enomotia's entropy, standardization snare, sparsity schism, columnar coup, quadrangentum quadrageni, quarter-quartered, quintessence quartered, Leonidas, quadragenary quadriga, quaternary quaestor, quadriceps quartered, Kyra's quiescence, quaternary quam, quiescence quartered, cascades, catharsis catastrophic, Messenia's manumission, Helot hegemony, oikos obliterated, oliganthropia ossified, perioikoi pressed, Helot hoplites hybridized, heterodoxies hydra, panthus plea, ps planus parley, polmos paramount, purities pyre, persistent, pistis and physis, perdition preferred, psyche's psoriasis redux, phobos fractured, fugue fractiousness, flentes forbidden, fidelitas fractured, Agesilaus IV's apostasy, 331 BCE, tricenarian triage, terras terrae, telos telescoped, tyrannicides terminus, Apothetae's appendix, tricentenary triptych, tessary of tragedy, Antigonus anathema, 222 BCE, decentenary debacle, demos decimated, didascalion disbanded, dike deferred, Kyra's kudos, sexagenary 60th, sexentum 60th, sepulchre silence, demises demography, decentenary ducats, demos decimated, dikeasign denied, oikonomia otios, oniroi otios, mercenary misthaphoroi, matrons metoikos, epigraphes elegy, Elios emergent, Eleutheria etched, Aristonomos apomnemonumida, anomia adrift, Polybian pragma, phronesis forsaken, modern mythos militarized, mechany of megalomania, mimesis of miseria, Teigitus testament, tricentenary triclinia, thanatos tangible, traumatactile, DNA's decradal, dikeasign denied, daimon despotic, legacies lancet, Lebensonwort lurid, Lebensborn lurid, logos latent, lex talionis latent, limen lethal, Sparta's simulacrum, Sophrosyne sanitized, skia shunned, Paidea's pathos, physis over philia, polmos over pistis, Paris perilous, proeresis provisional, phronema phantasmal, conformities cacosis, koinonia coerced, creasis concealed, gynic gyros, gamos gynocentric, genos gynocentric, gyne here, mythos malignant, muthapoia,